Interview from the other side with Betty Kiptum as we find out where will the money come from. This is the biggest budget we have had as a country so far, 3.92 trillion shillings. Where will the funds come from? Betty?
Thank you, Cynthia. Of course, on the story of social media, it will be interesting to see what those conversations have been, and we shall be bringing you that in a little bit. But here in studio on this other set, we have David Kingo, who is an economist, and we just want to continue with our conversation on matters, the budget, 3.92 trillion. Of course, as we said, Professor Ndungu said it's important to increase the tax base. He was categorical that there's a very huge informal sector that is not captured in the tax base. What are your thoughts on this?
Basically, there's some statistics about the untaxed citizens, or rather, when you look at the sphere of tax, we have around 1.7% of tax of untaxed income, or income that is not taxed. Basically, that's what we call increasing the tax base. And when you see the main tax in that sphere is income tax, which is around that 6% of the total tax collected. And you know it's a direct tax. Income tax is a direct tax, so it pains a lot. So basically, we would wish to see an expansion into other categories of tax which have a lower percentage of less than 10% that we can ease in the budget on income tax.
He mentioned the issue of reluctance by taxpayers to actually pay taxes because of the fear that they are not being used prudently. And it was interesting to hear that from that high level. And when you also look at the allocations to EACC, ODPP, and all these institutions that have been tasked with fighting corruption, it seems the government wants to do something about it, yeah?
Yes, of course, one of the initiatives that the CS started with was about fighting leakages in the unnecessary expenditure in the revenue that we're going to collect, or even the fiscal policy going forward. So basically it means that there is urgent need to control those particular loopholes so that we are able to cushion any leakage that happens. So basically there's that particular initiative from the government. That's why you've seen those particular allocations. And we've also seen initiatives to anchor that, one including the procurement, where they're saying they have gone e-procurement, and by I think by the end of this year, they have tested around 4 institutions and counties, and they're able to implement that fully. So basically, that's going one of the aspects to cushion that. They have also talked about accrual accounting. That's also an aspect to control leakages and corruption, and not going deep into accounting. So accrual accounting basically means you only account for what you have done and what you have received. So we also going to cure the issue of pending bills and corruption, that particular aspect we've seen in that particular budget.
What are the odds that this is going to work? Because remember when counties, they introduced the IFMIS to deal with the public spending, and yet it did not stop, leakages. What are the odds that this is going to work this time?
So we started IFMIS, and then that was the revenue side, or the finance management system. So we did not automate procurement. So now the two have been combined. So now we are trying to, the initiative to lock both ends, both the finance part and the procurement part. So basically it's going to be an initiative that might yield some results, because as long as the procurement remains manual or without control, then basically it's a challenge. So maybe the two, when they're tied together, we might have a change that will be achieved compared to what IFMIS could do when it was alone.
Yes. Let's now talk about, we had talked about the winners earlier. Let's talk about the losers. Yes. Of course, we saw that government, it bowed to pressure. They removed the transaction costs that were to be increased for mobile transactions. But there are some sectors that have been impacted. Yes. There's betting and gambling. He said that it's a problem for the young people, and that is why they're increasing the excise duty, is it, to 20%. Yes. What are your thoughts on this? Is this going to work?
I don't think gambling is a big menace, as it might be said. We've seen complaints about some mogoka, so maybe they would have focused on that. We would have gotten more taxes compared to what they are saying with betting, because we saw what happened a few years ago when one of the biggest company in betting had to, I think they left this country to another country. So also we need to look at what this betting company also do this particular economy in terms of supporting local business, CSR, and supporting sporting activities. So with given the increased tax on these particular institutions, we might not have a big plus because they are very flexible. They can move anytime to different countries. So we might look forward to see any benefit, but we might experience exits in those companies going to other economies where we have favorable tax system on that case.
Of course, when you're looking at sin taxes, you also have to consider the business implication of it. The alcohol bit of it, he said that now it will be according to how strong, let's call it that, the alcohol is. Do you think this will give some sort of predictability to the alcohol manufacturers and even attract new entrants?
Well, basically, we've seen even some aspects of the alcohol getting some relief, because from the economic point of view, we usually tax items that have inelastic demand. There's a bit of economics, whereby even if you change the prices, people will not change their consumption behavior. We have taxed this particular product to an extent. The prices have affected the consumption behavior, and then they have now come down. So then with that particular predictability, we might have more entrants in the market. So basically, it might be a plus to some aspect of that particular industry, those who have been affected positively, and basically a negative to those who have been affected negatively. But because they are in elastic demand, if you take 2 beers, you cannot take one because the price has gone up. You always want to push your budget. So that particular aspect makes this particular industry very, very resilient, despite increasing in taxes. Yes.
Another tax that is definitely going to impact a lot of Kenyans is the motor vehicle tax.
Yes.
And when we talk about the motor vehicle tax, it is not just people who own vehicles, because it will also lead to increases in fares for those who use public service vehicles. So tell us your thoughts in terms of the impact of the motor vehicle tax.
About the motor vehicle tax, there is something here that I've been thinking about, that they're saying the minimum is the maximum is 100,000, and then they're saying 2.5 value of that particular motor vehicle, and then the minimum is 5,000 if I'm not wrong. So basically what it means, if 2.5% is 100,000, then what is 100%? Around 5 million or so, if I'm not wrong. So
up at 4 million, actually.
4 million.
4 million, yeah.
So basically it means if you have a motor vehicle worth around 20 million, you're going to pay how much? 100,000. So you have saved how much? If you had to do 2.5% of 20 million, that is what you're supposed to pay. But in this case, you're paying 100. So you have saved, you as someone who has a vehicle higher than the value of 100%. So then we have someone else. The average value of motor vehicles in this economy is around 2 million, 2.5. So the 2.5 million person vehicle pays the exact of 2.5% without saving. But the person who has a vehicle above 5 million, of course, they are making savings. That is one of the distress in that particular tax. Number two, the other one, it's not an income. Owning a vehicle is not an income. So you're basically taxing a cost. Then you walk into a petrol station, you pay all those particular build-up taxes on fuel. Then that particular, the same vehicle is being taxed, motor vehicle tax. Then the insurance companies are not revenue collecting agents, also giving them an extra role, which means they'll have to employ extra people to collect this particular revenue on behalf of the government. So it also inconveniences the insurance companies. So basically, but the most worrying aspect that it is an expense that you want to tax, and basically we should tax income, so whereby you added a value or you generated an income, but only in a motor vehicle, I'm yet to learn how it is an income, not an expense.
And of course, if you're doing business with the vehicle, yes, you're paying tax on that business, whether it's transporting goods or whatever it is. When you talk about the motor vehicle tax, what are the risks of this tax in terms of, for the insurance industry especially?
Of course, when the cost of insuring vehicles definitely it increases towards the purchasing power of this particular person who owns this vehicle. Basically, you're going to see some scrupulous means of getting insurance that are not genuine. People might decide I can do a week or two without the insurance. I first get money so that I can be able to go to this particular underwriter and get my policy or broker. So basically we are going to see some challenges in that particular industry. So the other aspect is that this cost will be transferred to the consumer when it comes to public service transport. So basically the fares must increase because of this particular increased cost. Then if you are going to transport your agricultural products from the farm to the market, of course you have to transfer that particular cost to the consumer. So basically we are saying we're increasing cost of logistics and procurement of goods and services that use public service by 2.5%.
So this has far-reaching implications.
Of course it has an extensive effect in the economy because even in the layman's language, if you get sukuma wiki that has been transported from Machakos or Kiambu to Githurai 45, if they bring a bale of sukuma wiki at 500 and we have a 2.5 tax on that particular motor vehicle, then it is going to be transferred to this particular sukuma wiki. So this sukuma wiki is transported to a certain estate in Nairobi where they hold one bunch at 10 bob. It will not be 10 bob today. After that will be around 15 bob. So that particular impact is going to be pushed the last consumer in that particular procurement channel. Yes.
So what would be your thoughts in terms of bringing in this tax, introducing this tax? Is there a softer way of doing it?
So basically it could have been and mostly when we talk about taxing an expense, a motor vehicle, I would say it's not the best way to go about it. Then we need to look at the aspect of which commodities that we tax in this economy. Then we also look at, if we are saying our GDP is growing at this particular rate, we can go to a limit of 20% in terms of tax of our GDP. We need to look at so many other aspects that are not being taxed that we can tax. Number 3, the other aspect is to grow the economy. When the economy grows, what happens? If there were 10 shops in a certain street, then there will be 15. So you have extra shop to tax. The number of economic units that are taxable in this economy must be increased. That is how we increase the tax base positively, but not taxing the same economic unit different times, different ways. Then we have another tax that we also don't recognize. It's called the dark tax, whereby you have the dependency ratio in this economy. It's also too much.
Black tax.
Black tax. So we've overtaxed this particular economic unit. And then we also forget there is another black tax that this person is also paying. So we need to expand the economy, then we're able to get new tax based on how the economy grows. Yes.
So it's a bit premature.
Exactly.
All right. Let's talk about climate change. Of course, even in his introduction, he was Professor Ndung'u was very categorical about the climate change mitigation and all that. Yet in the finance bill, there are proposals to remove tax exemptions for e-mobility and also solar energy.
Yes. So basically, we saw that we call it the eco tax or something of that sort. So basically, it's affecting the initiative that the government has been putting in terms of pushing people towards activities that don't affect the economy, our ecosystem or climate. But of course, we have different entrants into this particular economy in terms of support, or in terms of grants and government support from external players around the climate issue. So basically, maybe it is going to cushion the tax that we collect, but of course, it's going to have some negative effect in terms of the milestone that the government has done in terms of ensuring that we control the devastating effect that we have had on the climate. So basically, we would wish to see how far it goes without having a negative impact. But of course, there are so many interested stakeholders externally in this particular issue of climate change. So basically, in general, we're going to have a positive because of the stakeholders that are involved. Yes.
What would be your analysis of this budget in terms of the impact on the common mwananchi? What should the common mwananchi brace for in this coming financial year?
I would not say that the budget is expansionary in terms of it is aggressive towards opening up the economy. It's a very strategic budget that is aimed to prosper some different aspects of the economy. So what we expect that it can have the expansionary effect that might come with, that we expect some stimulus program going forward to see whether they can be able to push to cushion the mwananchi, because I think we have not seen much conversation around kazi kwa vijana, but even though we've seen around 5 billion going to the what do you call it, the hustler fund, so basically that's a direct cash to the mwananchi. So basically it's a very strategic budget that we have not seen being aggressive toward putting money in people's pocket, but rather to create a conducive environment for production. Yes.
The government says that all this is happening so that we can be self-sufficient and, stop over-depending on borrowing. In the long term, is this strategy going to work?
We have had budgets over a number of years, and they have always grown. We have seen budgets grow by 1.7% in average in this economy, but this one we project to grow, they're saying to grow by almost 5% by the time we reach 2026, because that's where they project we might be stable a bit as an economy towards independence in terms of revenue generation. So basically, we are not expecting to see any miracle between what has happened in the last financial year and this one, because we have seen this growth in terms of budget and revenue projection, and we have not had significant impact in the economy. So basically, not unless we have individual changes in different sectors, but to say we are going to have a very stable economic growth that we're going to be realized in the near future might be quite aggressive, optimistic. Mm-hmm. Yes.
Before we close the conversation, I'd like to hear your views on recurrent expenditure. Of course, it's a big part of expenditure that we have in this country that consumes quite a bit of the budget. The efforts towards reducing that, what would it take to achieve a balance where our recurrent expenditure is not almost crippling us?
What we have seen, we've seen some initiative by the government. One is what I had mentioned here about freezing employment for 1 year. We don't know whether that includes replacements, where a person has left, they have to be replaced. We've also seen they're saying public sector need to stop rehabilitation and partitioning of offices. I don't know how significant that was. There's also initiative, another initiative that I've seen around the same is trainings in public sector to be done within the public sector institutions, not outside, basically that to cushion trainings. So basically all that, the initiatives to reduce the recurrent expenditure. But the other issue is that to reduce an instant recurrent expenditure, basically, and the largest being public salaries, is a tall order, because not unless we have a structured way of exit, maybe retirement or the retirement handshake, the golden handshake history that was there before, maybe those aspects, but it needs to be at a decreasing rate over time, so that we squeeze. Because they're also saying we are going to see mergers on public sector entities. We are going to see some entity being collapsed. So basically, all that the initiative to reduce the recurrent expenditure, but it's not going to be in the short run, maybe in the long run. Mm-hmm. Yes.
So as we close, what are your closing remarks?
So we're waiting for the finance bill to see what's on the other side, then we can debate from there.
Okay, we wait for the finance bill. Awesome, thank you very much. I've been speaking with David Kingo, who is an economist, and he has helped us to unpack those numbers in the budget 2024-2025 that was read today. Of course, we shall be bringing you the reactions on social media. It was quite a lit day on social media. All that is coming up after this break. Do stay with us.